The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOWAR5 to get a discount on your next order. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Art of War stream. We're super excited here as we are going to be talking about the most noble Sons of Sanguinius, the Blood Angels chapter of Space Marines. And this is my personal favorite Space Marine chapter.
Same here. Same here.
Look at that mug. I mean,
yeah, I got a mug, got a tattoo. I got Blood Angel stuff. Blood Angels took me to #1 ITC spot, won LVO. You know, they're an army that is near and dear to my heart.
I've been playing them since 3rd edition. I don't have any of those models left, maybe a couple of them, but I have been continuing to add to my collection, and I'm super excited about this book because it's a new opportunity to kind of look at all the different things Blood Angels typically do.
But if you want to see maybe some games with the new book, if you want to see all the cutting edge theory and list builds and all, you know, the dissection of the book even further, well, you want to go to the Art of War, the War Room at thewarroom.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial in there, and there's a link in the link below. If that name is a little bit of a mouthful for you, it's down there, 3-day free trial. Check it out, watch all the content, and maybe stick around. Because there's going to be more Blood Angel games in the future. I can promise you that.
If you're hanging out with us, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, let us know in the comments below how you're feeling about all these new Blood Angel rules, what you're most excited about. We're definitely going to read them, so please post that comment. We'd love to see your support. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in here. Now, if you're first time here at the Art of War channel, maybe this is, you've kind of looked at some other channels before. You came over here, you're looking for a review of this book. Well, we focus on competitive matched play. So we're not going to be looking at the crusade or the narrative rules or any of the lore in this book, although that stuff is amazing. We are going to focus on the match play rules in this review. And at the end of it, normally we would look at points for these units. However, all of these books coming out effectively say that look at the Minotaurum Field Manual instead, and don't use the points in the book. And because of that, we will probably do a follow-up video at some point in the future when we have the actual MFM with new Blood Angel points. So
absolutely,
we won't be going through the points in this one specifically.
A lot of units have changed, and when units change, their points generally change along with it. And as Richard said, the points in the back of the book generally completely worthless for determining what the points will be in the future.
Yeah, now if you're playing fun, casual pickup games, you can totally use those. No worries, start playing some Blood Angels now, or you can use the current MFM points, and eventually we'll get a new updated one. So if you really want to put the Blood Angels on the table in casual games, totally go ahead and do so. It's a lot of fun, and you're going to enjoy yourselves. But let's go ahead and dive in here, starting off with the Army rules, which, of course, is the Oath of Moment, which is a Space Marine general Army rule.
Yeah. You pick a unit at the in your command phase, and your entire army will get rerolls to hit against it until your next command phase, until you pick a different target.
Yep. Really good for focusing a thing down. It makes sure that you have efficiency in an area where you otherwise wouldn't have. Sometimes you use it just to pick off at the edges of the opponent. Maybe like one single unit is being traded this turn, and you go and kill something with Oath on it. Other times, you're going to threat overload, and the most important activation needs to have this Oath.
Absolutely. It's nice to have. It's probably middle of the road in terms of power level of army rules. It's nice to have, but it's not like game changing for your entire army. It makes one unit really good, or you're really good against one unit. Usually that's one activation that you really want. And it's quite solid. It's good to have. It amps up the damage of the army, and declaring Oath on something means it's probably about to die.
Yep. And then they add a second qualifier in here that Blood Angels are their own unique chapter, and thus units with the Blood Angels keyword you can't take any other chapter keywords in here. You can't take anything with Ultramarines or White Scars or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was trying to take Marnius Calgar in Blood Angels, but you definitely cannot. That's officially part of the rules. If it's Sword Brethren, you can't take it. You know, if it's Deathwing Knights, you can't take it. You only get Blood Angels and generic Marines. That's it.
Yep, which is totally good. Don't worry about that. Now, let's go ahead and head into these detachments. And I know this is your personal favorite one, so why don't I give that to you?
So the Liberator Assault Group is the old Sons of Sanguinius, which I quite like that detachment. Got a lot of life when it got an extra +1 strength, and also when fairer 40k strategies became more viable. When the game got generally powered down past the nonsense, it's a good detachment rule. Like, it's a hell of a detachment rule. Units get amped to the 9s when they get +1 attack, +2 strength on the charge, to the point where I actively like it's almost like I've been addicted to it, right? Like,
you can't get when you don't have it, you have withdrawal.
Exactly. If I have, jump pack intercessors hitting 3 attacks at strength or 4 attacks at strength 4, like, what are we doing? I want my 5 attacks at strength 6. They're just fundamentally different. So the detachment rule is the same. The Liberator Assault Group has Red Thirst, which means if you have made a charge move, you get +1 attacks and +2 strength by of melee weapons you have equipped. Very good detachment rule. Amps the damage of every unit in your army by a significant amount, especially things that hover in that really disappointing strength range of like 4 and 5.
Yep.
They get amped significantly. So big fan of that detachment rule staying where it is. Now, the Sons of Sanguinius enhancements are some of the worst in the game. Probably the worst suite of enhancements in the entire game. That has been changed around now. Now we have several good enhancements. We've got Speed of the Primarch, which is once per battle at the start of the fight phase, the bearer can use the enhancement. If it does, until end of the phase, models in the bearer's unit have fight first, which is one of the better enhancements in the game.
So good.
Yeah. Imagine a unit of Sanguinary Guard fighting first.
And it started fight phase, right?
Start a fight phase.
Which means that your opponent has already committed to this plan.
They've already charged you.
Now, they know you have the enhancement, but it could be like now you heroic this unit in, and all of a sudden you're creating all sorts of problems. It's a great enhancement.
Yeah, this is the sort of enhancement where you can look at it and say, oh, I only get it once. But in reality, you don't only get it once. Your opponent has to play around it for many, many turns, and then eventually you get to use it. And it's almost like you get it multiple times because your opponent will just not charge you until, they're okay taking the fight first. They just won't charge you on turn 2, and they won't charge you on turn 3, even if they could have, because you're like, I have fight first. I can get it this turn. And they're like, well, I don't want to just lose my unit for free, so I won't charge you. It's a once per game effect that you will get value out of most turns, and that is super strong.
Really good.
Because your opponent can't just let you get insane value, because then they get wrecked, so they just won't charge you, which means the problem is intact for later. It's super great. It's one of the best enhancements in the game, especially in a melee army. It's awesome. Rage-Fueled Warrior. Once per battle at the start of the fight phase, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, until the end of the phase, the bearer's melee weapons have sustained hits 3.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's real scary, especially if, say, there were any foot units that could maybe like reroll? Get Finest Hour and join Assault Intercessors to get reroll wounds and charge something that has Oath and reroll hits. And you can make a really, really nasty captain with this. They go Finest Hour and pop Rage-Fueled Warrior, and then they go in with like 9 or 10 attacks at strength 10, AP2 damage 2, with sustained hits 3, full rerolls to hit, full rerolls to wound, and just absolutely blow people up.
That is exactly where my mind was going. It's kind of like, because you used a similar combo with the Black Templars index in Gladius detachments. This is that, but even crazier, I think.
I think that the Black Templar captain with Honor Vehement does more damage.
You think so?
Yeah, he's 10 attacks at 10-3-3 with damage 3 is a big deal. But the fact that this guy's even in the same conversation.
He's definitely in the conversation.
Is wild. This guy's legitimately like 9 attacks, 19 hits, 10-2 reroll wounds. If you have him in the Assault Intercessor unit. Now, he is a one and done melee missile because the Assault Intercessors fold immediately. But if he blows a chunk out of your opponent's army and then your opponent has to answer him, he's done his value. He's achieved his goal.
Yeah, kills something, takes an objective away, ties things up, all good stuff.
Yeah, super worth it.
Yep.
Super worth it. We've got Icon of the Angel, which is a direct port from previous Sons of Sanguinius detachment. Any non-monster and vehicle unit engaged range of the bearer's unit that falls back has to take Desperate Escape, and if they're already battle shocked, they take it at -1. It's okay. Yeah. It was a points filler before. It was the best of the enhancements out of the old index. or out of the old detachment, and it wasn't that great. It was just if you had points left, and it probably still is if you have points left.
Probably. It's more niche, but it could be impactful in certain circumstances.
Yep. Gift of Foresight is my favorite warlord trait from 9th edition. Back again. So it used to be you rerolled a hit, a wound, and a saving throw every player turn. It's not quite as good as that, but it is once per battle round. After you make a hit roll, a wound roll, or saving throw, you treat the result as an unmodified 6. That's pretty damn good because it's after you've rolled the die, you get to flip it. So you can trigger this in a number of ways. One, if you have like sustained hits, it's pretty decent there. If you have dev wounds, like off a Thunderhammer or a Finest Hour, it's pretty decent there because you'll just guaranteed turn a failed wound into a devastating wound, which is different. And it will also help you stay alive because if your opponent hits you, you fail enough saves to die, flip one of those to a 6, and you're fine.
Yeah.
It's all right. Keeping your character alive at the end of a unit, not the most impactful thing in the world. And if your guy has dev wounds and you have points remaining, throw it on there. If you have points remaining, throw it on there, realistically. If your guy has devastating wounds, like a Thunderhammer or something like that, it's decent. It's something to consider. I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think the Fight First one is probably the first auto take, and then you could think about having a beefy combat character with the sustained one. But I think the Fight First is the one where you're just like, I have to put this in my list.
You have to have.
Just have to.
Yeah, it's too good to not take.
And the other thing here is that with enhancements in general for this whole book is that Blood Angels have extremely good name characters, unlike some other Space Marine or just other armies in general, which means they're not taking enhancements. So you have to have another generic character on top of that to hold the enhancement. And that's not always automatic.
Yeah.
But I think this is worth it, the Fight First.
It is worth it. The other ones may be less so. Like, for example, is it worth it having a captain in a Sanguinary Guard unit? Maybe not. There's an argument there. We'll get to that when you cover Sanguinary Guard. Like, you get benefits out of having characters in them, but it does make the unit significantly more expensive.
Yep.
But if you have Fight First, then yes. Yes, you're willing
100%.
to include that guy in there. So definitely something to look at. I think the Fight First is just mandatory. It's too good to not take on these amazing combat units.
Especially with the new layouts in Pry Nexus, a lot of them are a bit denser overall, especially in the middle. There's really good staging points, and attacking them isn't always easy for armies. But when they do find fast ways to attack you, well, guess what? Fight First is there.
Fight First. Fight First is brutal.
It's a great
on
defensive
good combat units.
Like, it's a fine offensive tool. Like, to push this up, your opponent then has to charge you on their turn. That's great. They have to go into your Fight First. But as a defensive tool with heroics and all sorts of stuff, it's so strong.
Yeah, you can keep other units alive by positioning your unit within 6 inches of them. So if they charge a secondary unit, your Sanguinary Guard or whatever, heroically intervene. When you do heroically intervene, by the way, you get your +2 strength and +1 attacks off of a heroic intervention because you made a charge move. And so then you pop Fight First and you do a brutal amount of damage to them, and they don't get to kill the second unit that they wanted to kill, and you killed a unit on their turn. It is nasty.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay however many points it costs. In the back of the book, I think it's 30. Enhancements usually are correct in terms of points cost.
Generally, they keep the enhancement points.
Yeah, I'm willing to pay 30, and I will thank them for the privilege. All right, so into the stratagems. The stratagems were kind of meat and potatoes for the previous Sons of Sanguinius, and they're like better meat and potatoes. They're like high quality meat and potatoes.
This is quality
now.
meat and potatoes. I'll take these. I'll eat these every day.
Every day. So before, they were good, they were solid, they served the army, nothing flashy. So first up, on the new ones, we've got Angelic Grace, which is any phase 1 CP when you take a mortal wound, and you get a 5-up feel no pain against it. It's okay. I have a 4-up feel no pain strat in Custodes, and I don't really use it that often because mortals tend to come in dribs and drabs, and it's not worth it to spend ACP on this. But if you have a captain, it might be free. That's nice. If you get hit with a lot of devastating wounds, you do.
T-Suns?
Yep, 1,000 Suns. You get to see how many mortal wounds you're taking before you activate this. So if they doombolt you and roll a 1 and do 2 mortal wounds to you or something, then sure, take the damage. But if they roll a 6 and they hit you with 10, and then they're going to follow up with the second one, slap this down in a heartbeat, and it can really help with that, especially with devastating wounds being mortal wounds. If your opponent just happens to roll really good and do a ton of devastating wounds to you, well, then you can pop this.
Yep.
But you'll know how many devastating wounds you're taking when you pop this, because it's when you take the mortals and you take them all at the end. So you see every roll that they do, and you're like, wow, their Forge Fiend only handed me 1 3 damage dev wound. I'm not going to pop it. It's not worth it. Or, oh my God, their Forge Fiend handed me 15 mortals in devastating wounds. There we go. I'm going to pop it. So it is nice there, at least. It's a good thing to have in the back pocket.
Yeah, it's more of like, as my 6th strat, just to have some flexibility. It's nice to have if you don't have mortal protection otherwise.
Yep. We've got Armor of Contempt, which is a really good defensive strat, one of the best in the game, and all Space Marines have access to it. It's really good with Sanguinary Guard in cover for a 2-up save with Armor of Contempt in cover, really strong.
Yep, that's -1 AP in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase in general.
Yep. So all 4 of the remaining strats have a mechanic, which is if you spend for the strat, you get 1 of 2 effects. And if you want both effects, you can get it, but your unit will battle shock because they're giving into their red rage. I think it's a super cool mechanic.
Yep.
I think it's great. Let's get into it. So the first one is 1 CP in your opponent's charge phase. Now this is Savage Echoes. This is one that I misread when I first saw it. I thought it was just in the fight phase you use it, but no, it's in your opponent's charge phase. When you pick one of your units that was just charged, and you pick either strength or attacks, and you get +1 to that characteristic for your unit.
Mm-hmm.
So if your opponent charges you and you need to do damage, you can pop this, and you get +1 strength and attacks. Like the fight first unit getting +1 attacks. Pretty solid. Now, if you want strength and attacks, you become battle shocked, but you do get +1 strength and attacks. That's oftentimes not that necessary, but on the fight first unit, if you need to go to strength 7 or whatever for a break point, it could be super worth it to battle shock yourself in order to do so, especially since on your opponent's turn, you will unbattle shock before you score points or anything like that.
Yep.
So the only time it would matter is if they lived and you need to Armor of Contempt in response. That's about it.
Or hold the objective.
Or hold an objective at the end of their turn or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a decision to be weighed, right? But oftentimes it's worth it to do both. Battle shock yourself, hit them as hard as possible, and then unbattle shock when it comes to your turn again.
Yeah, like if they are coming in to try and do this charge, get some damage, and also get like secure no man's land or something at the same time, it might be worth it just to pick one effect so you have OC on the objective to deny that.
Yeah, I think most of the time it's just going to be attacks, but occasionally +1 strength gives you,
big break points.
Is a break point that affects what you need to wound, and then it can be very helpful. I think this is a good stratagem. Definitely not as good as I first thought when I first looked at it. But the fact that you can get it when your opponent charges you, and you can then punish them for not killing you or whatever, can be a big deal.
And they're all 1 CP in this detachment?
All of them are 1 CP. Yep. Every single one is 1 CP. All right, next up is Red Rampage. This one we had originally in the previous detachment. Now it is you get either lance or lethal hits. Not both. You get one or the other. But if you battle shock yourself, you get both lance and lethal. Playing with the stratagem for lance lethal hits, the lethal hits did not matter that much. They were nice. They were great. You wanted lance. So the fact that this is 1 CP lance most of the time is pretty decent. If, for example, I need to, fight after my opponent charges me, I could pop +1 attack and then pop lethal hits because lance doesn't apply if it's an extended combat. So that's also pretty good. There's a little bit of flexibility in there. And then if I need to hit something as hard as physically possible, I can go lance and lethal hits, which is nice. It's nice that it's a little modular. It is worse than it was before. I'm not going to lie and say it isn't, but it's still a hell of a strat. Most of the time you're just spending for lance anyway, and I'm still happy to have it even if it got a little worse.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some things that did not get a little worse. Let's talk about some things that that take Blood Angels to the next level, and I'm not exaggerating
Stonks
here.
up.
Stonks way up. They added in a strat that is 1 CP immediately after a unit from your army has advanced. That unit can either choose one of 2 things. They can shoot, or they can declare a charge.
Which one am I going to do?
If you battle shock yourself, you get both. Now, I will tell you, in Blood Angels, you're going to take the charge. Advance and charge is flipping massive.
12-inch moving jump infantry? Heck
oh
yeah,
my god, yeah. It's huge. The unit is just ascends to the next level of speed. Like, this army becomes World Eaters fast. Not 12-inch moving jump pack fast, World Eaters fast now. And that is a huge deal. Yes, it's not across the board. Sure.
But when you can stage in the middle, I mean, it's basically most of the board.
What I mean is you don't get on every one of your units.
Yeah.
But you get it on one unit, the unit that needs it.
Mm-hmm.
And when your opponent is determining where they're going to put their units, they have to assume that not every one of your units will have it, but any of your units could have it. And this is a game changer. Like, straight up, this is a game changer to how Blood Angels function. And I'm more than happy to have this, right? You rapid ingress a unit, you then go 16 inches across the board and declare a charge.
Yeah.
Brutal. And every detachment has advance and charge in it in some form or fashion.
Yep.
Which
Very
is
good.
really, really nice.
One of the things that you would do against Blood Angels previously was, okay, yeah, they do move 12 inches, but I'm going to make my unit, I'm going to pre-measure that 12 inches, and then I'm going to say, I'll give you a 10-inch charge. And you can go for that risk and whatnot. Doing that type of pre-measuring is so much more difficult when you have access to advance and charge.
Yep.
It's like, oh, they rolled a 6 on that advance. All of a sudden, the charge that I was hoping was a long one is actually right next to me.
Yep. And it also has a really good timing, which is you get to speculatively advance.
Mm-hmm.
So because it triggers after your unit has finished its advance move, what this means is you can have a charge that's like an 11, and you go for the advance. And if you roll a 1 on the advance, your unit just like stays where it is and doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if you roll a 6 on the advance, you move them out, and then you pop the strat, and it's a 5-inch charge. You're not giving up anything for trying, which is very nice. It's like how a Blade Champion in Custodes, you get to just roll the advance, and if you get the distance required to mean that it's a good charge and you want to go for it, then go for it. And if you don't have to do anything because you can do it again the following turn. You haven't exhausted your ability to go for the charge. So if you have 2 units next to each other and a distant target, you can roll the first one, CP reroll it if necessary, then roll the second one. I got a 5. Okay, cool. And then you go in.
It's amazing.
It's such a game changer. And occasionally, this is nice if you have like a Vindicator that needs to advance and shoot. If you can, it's valuable to even tell your opponent, hey, this Vindicator doesn't just move 9. It could move up to 15. Be careful, right? Because that's a big deal. If a Vindicator can be easily pre-measured, you move it to an angle and your opponent goes, well, you can't. You can barely not see me. But if I roll a 6 on the advance, I'm seeing you and I'm spending a strat to shoot you with a Vindicator. And that's huge. Your opponent
It's not locked to anything, right?
Oh, no. It's locked to Adeptus Astartes.
Yeah, so you could do it Land Raider Redeemer. Just advances up all of a sudden. Whoop, Flamer Town.
Sorry. Looks like you're getting shot today. Yeah, that's a huge deal. And they have to account for that on every unit you have. Well, not every, but any. And that's a big deal because if they account for it on units A through D, Unit E will use it and hit them. So it's great. As I said, game changer. I don't care that Lance and Lethal hits got split up. I don't care that Fight on Death is gone. It is gone, by the way. It's in a different detachment. But I don't care. I just don't care. Advance and charge is one of the best rules you can give a melee army, full stop. It was the big thing holding Blood Angels back, ? Not having it. Not having it was the single biggest weakness that they had. And they have it now. So that is huge. And then lastly, we've got fall back. It's basically the same thing. It's fall back and shoot or charge. And if you battle shock yourself, you get both. Again, like advance and shoot or charge, it is unlikely you will ever take the battle shock here.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the units that want to be fighting want to fight, and the units that want to shoot, and there's not that much overlap there. And I can't really think of a unit that wants to fall back, shoot, and charge so bad that they're willing to battle shock themselves in your own movement phase. That's not ideal. But realistically, you're going to fall back with a thing that can fight and advance with a thing that can shoot, and you're going to advance with a thing that can fight, and you know which one of those you're actually going to use, right? You're not going to battle shock yourself. This is an amazing suite of strats.
Really, really. This is upgraded in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Big time. It's not even close. I think it is a huge improvement over a previously pretty solid detachment.
I mean, the win rate was really good. Blood Angels, once they got their update in, was it January? Balanced status slate?
I think it was January, yes.
They have been in a very good spot, so much so that they actually got points increases in 2 successive updates. But they are a really strong army, and I think this detachment is fantastic.
Yes. Now, the thing I will say is I don't actually think the +2 strength was a huge contributor to their win rate going up. I think the real contributor was around that time in January, the game became less nonsensical, right? We're not dealing with phantasming 6-inch Wraithguard bricks and, Nurgle Forge Fiends and all the
broken stuff
nonsense that we had before, right? We're not dealing with, Nurgle Obliterators and full rerolls to hit and wound Forge Fiends and full rerolls to hit and wound Chosen and all the nonsense that we dealt with before. Wraith Knights, none of that. And once all of that got removed, Blood Angels are just a very good army at playing fair 40k. They're very good at it. And I think that led to them getting much better. And then this is a suite of abilities that is just perfectly tailored to a combat army. Is it missing anything? Probably some form of Fight on Death, but I found Fight on Death to be more of a trap than anything else, to be honest with you. I almost never have it up on World Leaders. I almost never used it on Blood Angels. Like, I'm not sad to lose it personally.
I would rather fight first than fight on death.
Exactly. And I'd rather advance and charge than do any of that nonsense. And we're advancing and charging, and we're fight firsting, and we have better data sheets. So that is, that's pretty amazing for me. You want to cover the...
That's okay. Angelic Host is my personal favorite one here, but I'm going to do Lost Brethren just to give Jack's voice a little bit of a breather here.
Thank you.
All right, so Lost Brethren is, of course, going to be the Death Company Detachment, and their rule is a noble death in combat.
That's what they're looking for.
Each time a Death Company model from your army makes a melee attack, reroll a wound of 1 if the model's unit is below starting strength. And then if the model's unit is below half strength, you get the full rerolls. So even if you do have a couple Death Companies still hanging around, they hit a lot harder than they normally would. So it means that MSU, like if you have MSU elements left just hanging around in the late game, you're still hitting pretty damn hard.
Especially Foot Death Company that then get sustained too.
Yeah.
And have their melee weapons remaining. And it gets pretty nasty.
And so if you select this detachment, Death Company Marines with bolt rifles units from your army have the battle line keyword, which means that you can take additional units of them.
That's nice. And they get the battle line benefits, which is also good. They get banners and advance and
raise the banners,
action.
Swift action, stalwarts.
Yep.
Rapid escalation.
All the action stuff will still require them to have a chaplain nearby, or else their OC is 0 and cannot do actions.
Yep.
So you do have to make sure that your chaplains are, around.
Don't worry, we got some good ones. All right, so we got enhancements here. There's 4 of them, of course. You have Sanguinius's Grace, which allows a Death Company. These are all for Death Company models, of course. You can't put them on any other characters. Once per battle, at the end of the fight phase, if the bearer is within engagement range of 3 or more enemy models, not units, models, the bearer can fight 1 additional time.
Well, we have not gotten double fights in the game of 40k so far, and that is certainly one
It existed in previous editions, but not in 10th.
It was always a good rule. It didn't break the game that much, but it was a good rule, and this is going to be a version of that.
Absolutely. And I believe it means that, similar to the old rules, so you can fight again, which means you can pile into something and then activate, then consolidate.
But you have to be in engagement range of 3 or more enemy models.
Yep.
So likely you're not going into like a different unit, but you do get to fight them
finish
again.
them off, possibly tie up something else.
Yep. The way this doesn't get used is you almost never will be able to go into a vehicle, hit it, receive the nonsense vehicle attacks back, and then trigger that to attack again. You don't get to fight twice into, like a Lehman Russ or something, generally, unless there's 3 Lehman Russes all begging for it.
And if they are, you're going to give it to them.
Yeah, then they're going to receive. But what this means is you can go into a unit, punch it, and then likely punch it again. You can consolidate into a second unit, take their nonsense attacks and clear them out. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a neat enhancement here. Next is Blood Shard. This one is the first time the bearer is destroyed. At the end of the phase, you roll a d6 on a 2-up. The bearers stood back up, and not with engage range, of course, with 3 wounds remaining. And if you kind of following the meta recently, A lot of such units are finding their way into more and more lists, like Brother Captain Sterning Grey Knight stands back up on a 2-up. You have a Necron Detachment that stands back up characters. There's a handful of things across the game that basically get to come back alive and do more things.
I've been getting a ton of value out of the Autarch Wayleaper standing back up with Phoenix Gem.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is very similar.
And so it means that not only can this resource be traded at some point, you still just have to have something in the area to interact with it. Otherwise, it's doing its damage. And if you precision them out and they stand back up and the unit's still alive, they'll rejoin the unit.
Yep.
Thanks for the rules commentary. All right. Then to slay the War Master, which is a sick name, once per battle at the start of the fight phase, if the bearer is within engagement range of one or more enemy character units, you can select one of those character units and roll 6d6. For each 4+, one character model in that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So it's another way to do potential mortals.
Wait, so it's every turn?
Once per battle at the start of the fight phase.
So once per battle at the start of the fight phase, you grenade the character.
Yep.
That could be incredibly cheeky. They charge you, you go character no existy no more.
You have to be within range of a character unit, but then the mortals are applied to one character model in that unit.
Yep. So if you roll good, you can just like pick a dude out of the unit and just bye-bye, sorry. It's nice knowing you, Chief.
It's pretty cute. It really depends on the cost on these. And then Vengeful Onslaught, Death Company model only. If the bearer is destroyed until the end of your next turn, each time a friendly Death Company model makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll.
And just to be clear,
just against anything.
If any Death Company on the table swings on anything on the turn this guy dies, you get +1 to hit.
Yep.
That's pretty cute. Now, you will need your opponent. It's the same turn, right? Not battle round, not anything.
Yeah.
That is
until you're
going to be hard to trigger.
Yeah, until the end of your next turn.
Yeah, until the end of your next turn. Okay, so if they die in your opponent's turn,
exactly,
then your whole army goes, we did not like that. We did not like that at all.
If you heroic them in or they charge and kill this unit, then you're going to get it on your turn.
Do they have to kill them in combat or just at all?
Just the bear. Let's see. The bear is destroyed.
Yep.
Just period.
So you can run it out, go get a trade, die, and then go, well, you've triggered my trap card, and charge them with your whole army.
Yeah, I kind of like this.
It's neat. It's a good effect. It's army wide, which means it's probably pretty good.
In this detachment, when you are incentivized to take as many Death Company as possible, yeah, 100%. All right, then we got 6 stratagems here, and once again, all of them are 1 command point. So first up is Glorious Sacrifice. It can be used in any phase. 1 Death Company unit from your army that was just destroyed while it was within range of an objective marker, you basically get to sticky that objective, which means the unit dies, but if you control the objective, you're going to control it until your opponent takes it away.
And that is, you have to be an object marker you control, right?
Yes.
So you do have to have a chaplain within 12, so they have OC or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you from playing World Eaters, that's a game changer right there. Because what happens is you put them on an objective in the open. Your opponent either needs to send a unit forward so that when they die, you don't sticky the objective,
mm-hmm.
or in which case you get more things to kill. Or they don't, you sticky the objective, and now you hold it in the open and whatever, who cares? It's a really good effect.
Like you draw secure no man's land, then on your next turn, you're like, cool, I don't even have to send anything to touch this.
For a melee army, this is better than standard sticky objectives. Because standard sticky objectives, you have to control it like in your command phase or during your movement phase or something. And so you can't walk on and then control it and sticky it. But this you can walk on, they kill you, you go, haha, sticky, and then they have to send units forward.
This is a good strat in general, but there's a couple detachments, like there's an AdMech detachment that has this rule, and it doesn't work in quite the same way because you're incentivized to rush at an army like AdMech if you're a combat army. But against a bunch of Death Company and Blood Angels, you're not quite so incentivized to run across the table into them.
No, playing this exact strat in World Eaters, it's a good one. It's a really good strat because people want to sit back against you, as you said.
Yeah.
And if they sit back, well, then you just stick it every objective in the open and cool.
It's like having a lone op there. You have to lose your unit, but they expose something in the first place to do it. Your unit dies and you're like, I still have it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't care.
And you have a safety net, basically. Then Armor of Contempt, we mentioned that. It's going to be the same in all of these, so that's just what Space Marines get. And then final Retribution here is used in the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You're going to pick a Death Company unit from your army that was selected as the target, of those attacks. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit is destroyed, if the model hasn't fought, you're going to roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if you're within 12 inches of a chaplain. And on a 4+, you're going to fight on death.
Yep.
So 3 up if you're near a chaplain.
This is the first of a series of stratagems where it is one thing and a better thing if you're within 12 of a chaplain, which I like a lot, actually. I think that's a really good way of doing
Very
it.
flavorful.
Very flavorful. A fight on death. So again, this is a stratagem I have experience with, actually. In Black Templars, Righteous Crusaders, they have a 4-up fight on death for 1 CP, and it's a 3-up if you're in the oath that you just are taking. So it's a 3-up fight on death for 1 CP. And there are 2 types of strats. There are 2 types of fight on deaths. 2 CP full fight on death, or 1 CP fight on death on a 4. And of those, fight on death, 1 CP fight on death on a 4 is the worst, followed by 2 CP fight on death all the time, followed by 1 CP fight on death on 3s. 1 CP 3-up fight on death is the best of the bunch. And this is that. It's super good.
Yeah.
Super good.
Prepare to use this often.
2 CP is a very steep price to pay.
Mm-hmm.
1 CP is very cheap. This is cheap and reliable. 1 CP 4-up is cheap and not reliable. So it's quite a good fight on death.
Depending on how many CP you have, you'll have option, because this is only 1, you'll have the option to do like a heroic and then this, or you'll have a counteroffensive and in one place and then you use this in the other place. You have options. With 2 CP, it's a lot harder, especially with the Vect around.
Yes. At least it's 2 CP, something guaranteed happens, but 1 CP 3-up is just the best.
Yeah.
Of those effects.
I mentioned Vect, that is increasing stratagem costs. Yes. That's a colloquial term. Then Furious Onslaught is 1 CP, used in the fight phase. No surprise there. 1 Death Company unit from your army just before that unit piles in. Till the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a pile-in move, it can move up to 3 plus D3 instead of 3 inches. And if your unit is within 12 of a chaplain, then it is 6 inches.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the pile-in. I suppose if your unit is super strung out, you can use this to fix that, and then it would be good. But outside of that exact scenario, I don't see it doing a ton.
Yeah, especially because the units are generally smaller overall. It's not like you're running 20-man units of stuff that's strung out all over the place.
Yeah, if you had a lot of 20-man units, then sure. Like if this were in
like the gargoyles and the Tyrannid detachment that lets them respawn, or
if this was on the Black Templars
Crusader
spam, yeah, it'd be so good. It would be super good. But it is not. It's on 5-man, possibly 10-man units of Death Company. Like a lot of times, Death Company are probably going to want to run in 5s, and having extra pile-in distance on that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, there might be some niche scenarios where this will be useful, but generally, it's not going to come up too often, I would think. Then you have 1 CP Lost to Rage, also fight phase. Target a Death Company unit from your army that's below starting strength and has not been selected to fight yet. Till the end of the phase, improve the attacks, strength, and armor penetration characteristics of melee weapons equipped by models in the unit by 1, unless the unit is within 12 inches of a chaplain. Then they'll gain hazardous on that. If they're within range of the chaplain, they don't get the hazardous downside.
So they have to be below starting strength, which does kind of suck. They actually need to be below starting strength for everything. That's not ideal for like the real ones to wound and the real all wounds.
That's below half, yeah.
Yeah. That I don't love, because little 5-man nonsense units are very easy to just snuff out entirely.
It's not that easy to get wounded on your own turn.
It is not.
Like they can overwatch you. So like Overwatch is a downside here. If you swing down on your Overwatch and just randomly hurt a unit, you kill one model out of the unit. Like, cool, I'm a lot stronger.
Listen, an interrupt where you kill the 2 guys with chainswords out of a 5-man is going to sting. That's going to sting. One thing I will say about the fight on death and the reroll wounds and all that is, especially when you combine this with the Foot Death Company, fighting on death with these effects is actually really good. This one you can't use with that because it's triggered when your unit fights and whatever. It can't be used with your fight on death. But the rerolling wounds, if you're below half strength, is really good, because if they charge you and wipe your unit, when you fight on death, every model that swings is counted as being dead and treats the rest of their unit as being dead. So Foot Death Company that gets sustained 1 when they're below starting and gets sustained 2 when they're below half, and they still have that, and get reroll ones to wound and reroll full wounds when they're below half, they will, if you completely wipe the unit, the models that fight on death will get reroll wounds sustained 2 and reroll hits.
They're slamming.
They are slamming so hard. That is the situation where I really see that coming up. Right, you wipe a unit, suddenly they're rerolling hits and wounds and sustained 2. Okay, you're getting messed up at that point. Outside of that, it's a little hard to get them like wounded the correct amount, right? Especially 5-man squads. Am I really stoked that I can give, that I can give a 2-man, a benefit? Not really. If I include a character in there, then suddenly it's like a 1-man plus a character if I want them to reroll the wounds. It's tough, man.
It's a little too niche. But last one here is Wrathful Rampage. So your movement phase just after a Death Company unit from your army advanced. Until the end of the turn, your unit can advance and charge, which is fantastic. And if you're within range of a chaplain or your unit is below its starting strength, your unit is able to shoot and charge. Gotcha.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your Death
This
Company
was stronger previously when you had a lot more random shooting weapons, like Inferno pistols on a lot of things.
The Inferno pistols were nice.
So this is, you don't have to be, this is the one where having a chaplain nearby isn't quite as essential. But you want him in general just to get the OC and stuff.
Advance and charge is super nice. Super nice. So I'm not going to turn it down. It is only on Death Company.
Yep.
But that's what you wanted on this detachment.
So ultimately, this detachment only interacts with Death Company, doesn't help any of the other Marine units that you might have access to in Blood Angels. And it's trying to interact with generally wounded. Some of the strongest rules here interact with wounded Death Company units. So because of that, I think this is probably the worst detachment in this book.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it has such a narrow selection of units that benefit from the power, and then the full power is really only accessed in more niche scenarios. It's not just I get to do this thing it's in my control.
Yeah, the one powerful thing I think this detachment does is it fights on death like a son of a gun. Because if you do kill a unit and they fight on death, they will reroll wounds. And that is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
So I do think I agree with you that it is probably the worst of the lot. Also, Death Company, I think, want to play a more supporting role rather than be the stars of the show. And this only benefits Death Company. So I think that the Liberator Assault Group is better than this by a significant amount. And another detachment that I think is better is the Angelic Host.
Heck yeah, this one's exciting.
Now, I will say, again, not having +2 strength, +1 attack, it's, I'm addicted to it. I need it. But what I will say is that Sanguinary Guard are my favorite unit in the game, period. And they have made them cool again. And here's the Angelic Host with a picture of a Sanguinary Guard, or the Sanguinor, I think. The Sanguinor on the front.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm going to like anything, I'm like this. So, upon Wings of Fire is the detachment rule. And it means at the end of your opponent's turn, you can pick up to 2 jump pack units if you are Strike Force, more or less depending on the size of the battle, but 2,000 points standard, you'll pick 2 units. And you put them into strategic reserves, and then in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase, you put them up on the board using their Deep Strike ability. It's a good mobility tool. There aren't any tools, I'm going to spoil it a little, there aren't any tools to let you charge better, which is a bit of a miss, right? You have Blood Angels units picked up and put down and picked up and put down, and you aren't giving them bonuses to charge out of reserves. It's a little bit of a miss, but it's a good movement tool. It's a good way to, do secondaries around the board. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, like Inceptors being able to come down into a particular area, blow something up, and be like, all right, cool, we're coming back up.
Yes, Inceptors with Upon Wings of Fire are going to be really good.
Yep,
really good.
Because they can clear from a very safe angle, your opponent's Space Marine Scouts or something like that, not get damage back in return, go back up, and you keep using them. Whereas in a lot of detachments, you're kind of trading a relatively expensive resource.
And they keep showing up 3 inches away, too.
100% they do.
All right, we got Artisan of War as the first enhancement. Jump pack model only, improve the AP of the bear's weapons by 1, and they get a 2-up save. This one was kind of a filler enhancement in Sons of Sanguinius. If you have points left, sure. If you don't, then why not?
Not essential.
Not essential. Visage of Death is another filler one from Sons of Sanguinius. Jump pack model now only. In the battle shock step of your opponent's command phase, each enemy unit other than monsters and vehicles within engagement range of the bearer take a battle shock check. This is different. It used to be half the OC of non-monsters and vehicles, and it was useless. Because which non-monsters and vehicles are you in combat with whose OC is higher than one that you didn't just kill? And the answer was like, it never came up. Now you take a battle shock test, so if you consolidate into your opponent, they have to take a battle shock test in their command phase. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's fine. It's, again, kind of filler, but it is better than before. Archangel Shard, again, kind of a filler one from Sons of Sanguinius. Bear's melee weapons get anti-chaos 5+ and Lance. Lance is nice. Oftentimes you're going to have it already. Oh, no, you're not, because this is the wrong detachment.
You don't have it easily.
You do not have Lance. This is it's pretty good. +1 to wound on the charge for the bear. It's pretty solid. Depends on the points, and if you have those points available.
Here comes my favorite one.
Gleaming Pinions. This one is the power one, for sure. Adeptus Astartes jump pack model only once per turn when an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches of the bearer. Whew. Boy, that is strong. If this bearer's unit is not within engaged range of one or more enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6. Once per turn.
Per turn.
Per turn. The Custodes one was once per game.
Well, the thing is there's a lot of other reactive moves, and reactive moves are normal moves. So if they happen to reactive too close to you...
Yep, you just reactive. So a thing I did against your Necrons, if you remember, was I sprinted my Custodes out towards your Necrons, because when your Canoptic Court used your reactive move, your reactive move triggered my reactive move, and I just moved further. And because this isn't a stratagem, you can use it any time that happens, once per player turn. So that means you can run it out, your opponent reactive moves, you then reactive move, you go kill their thing, and then they run up to you, you're like, and you move 6. This is really strong. Really, really strong. Something to keep in mind, though, is it only triggers off 9 inches of the bearer. So if his unit is strung out, your opponent might be able to get like a 5-inch charge into the unit while staying 9 inches away from the dude holding the enhancement. So be careful about that and keep them clumped up.
But this enhancement, this is the auto take.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. I can't even imagine. Like, you have this on a unit of Sangard that just gets to move. It's great. That
like, you commit the unit like past an enemy ruin, you kill the unit that's there, and then they're like, oh, well, I need to touch the center objective. And you're like, oh, well, if you do, I'm going to go touch. I'm going to go on this side of the ruin that you don't see, or I'm going to go touch the objective. Now you have to kill me.
Yes, it's super good. The reactive moves are great, and oftentimes they cost you a resource, CP, or they're once per game. And this is neither of those. And it's also a flat 6 move, which, again...
it's not D6.
It's not D6. You just move 6. It's really, really strong. I can tell you I played the Custodes version of it that was once per game, and it was an auto take there. This is like an even auto take? I don't know. Is that a word? Whatever it is, it's the case. In the Stratagems department, we've got Armor of Contempt, reduces incoming AP by 1. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. Nothing to write home about, but pretty solid. I mean, sorry, it is very good. We've just covered it 17 times.
Yes.
But it is an incredible defensive strat.
You use it very often.
Yes. Unbridled Ardor, 1 CP in any phase when an opponent kills a Space Marine unit from your army. Any Space Marine unit. For the rest of the game, the unit that killed your unit, anytime Sanguinary Guard fight it, they will reroll hits and wounds. So Magnus shoots some of your scouts to death. Guess what? They didn't like that very much. And now anytime a Sanguinary Guard unit gets in on him, he's going to have a bad time. Rerolling hits and wounds is gnarly.
Super good.
And you can just spend this basically anytime like your opponent kills anything with a real unit. And at some point, your Sanguinary Guard just rocking around the board, just murdering everybody. Because like a land fort pops a scout unit. Cool. Sanguinary Guard, go turn that land fort inside out.
Reroll hits and wounds is where it's just, okay, this is just happening.
Yeah, you're just dying today. All right, we got Angel Sacrifice, one of my favorite strats from Blast from the Past.
Mm-hmm.
Start of the fight phase, you pick a jump pack unit from your army that's in engaged range of an enemy. Every time an enemy model within engaged range of your unit selects its targets, it must select your unit as the target of all of its attacks. So that means any models within an inch of you are forced to fight you. So if you have 2 units in there, you can use this to break up an inner. Honestly, the uses for this are as varied as your imagination. It's what I found in 9th edition.
Yeah.
It used to just be a character. Now it's any unit. You can use this to effortlessly break up interrupts by sacrificing a unit to go in, right? You send your hitter unit in, and then you send jump pack intercessors in, and the jump pack intercessors suction all the attacks off of the hitter unit.
They just base a bunch of their models. They're like tying up most of the unit. The key unit is hitting the edge of the unit, and you're like, bam.
Yep.
Angel sacrifice.
And you largely will use this to get around things. So things like heroic intervention into an angel sacrifice is a nasty way to prevent people from doing what they want to do. Right? They charge your sanguinary guard only to find the jump pack intercessors behind them in combat with them now, and now they have to attack the jump pack intercessors while sanguinary guard wail on them. In addition, if you do that, right, you angel sacrifice in after they charge your sanguinary guard, then they kill your jump pack intercessors, you trigger unbridled ardor, and the sanguinary guard flip them on their heads. It's such a strong defensive mechanic. You are sacrificing a unit, but what you get out of it is a ruined combat on your opponent's side, and it's super good.
Yep.
The fact it's not just characters now is huge. Any jump pack unit can just suction attacks off. It used to be a character who's on like a tiny little base would have to go in there and try and hoover up as many attacks as possible. But now a 5-man squad can just be within an inch of everybody and be like, all right, everybody has to fight me. Common misconception: if you are in base with a model in base, you can still swing wherever you want. You have to be any model within an inch of your jump pack unit it has to attack them. But if they are eligible to fight them, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to. Just a quick thing. This is a super good defensive strat. I love it. I think it's great.
It's amazing.
All right. Next up is Martial Exemplars. In the fight phase, one Adeptus Astartes jump pack unit that has not been selected to fight gets lethal hits and precision, which is not that great as an offensive ability. It ups your damage.
Sounds good as Lance.
A minor bit. Yeah, you really want Lance. Precision's not great. A lot of the time you want to just get precision the old-fashioned way by killing your opponent's unit and then killing the attached character afterwards. But it's all right. You'll use this occasionally, I think. Lethal hits is fine. It's just nothing. It's not worth a CP. It's like the perfect candidate for a half CP strat, right? Descent of Angels. 1 CP jump pack unit that arrives from Deep Strike can go 3 inches away. And you can't declare a charge if you do so. Now, not being able to declare a charge for Blood Angels is going to be very sad, but generally this is an amazing mission tool.
And the jump pack unit you would want to use this on is Inceptors, but they have 3.1 away already. So it's not, like, there's not too many amazing targets. If we still had tons of Inferno Pistols, that could be a reason to do this. But this is mostly going to be a mission tool, frankly.
Yes.
Is to just contest objectives away or be in a spot your opponent can't really deal with.
All right. Next up is Death from the Skies, which is a good strat that is very poorly written. I don't know if you noticed this. So it is a strat 1 CP jump pack unit that advanced or fell back gets to shoot and to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced and fell back. Now, why is it poorly written? That all sounds great. It triggers in your charge phase. So if you fall back,
you miss the timing for shooting.
Yep, you will not be able to shoot. So you fall back, you can't shoot. In your charge phase, you activate being able to shoot and charge, and then you can charge. That makes no sense.
I assume this will be switched to movement phase or something like that.
I assume it's movement phase right after you fell back, because as it currently works, it is fall back and charge. It says it's fall back, shoot, and charge, and it technically is, but you will not be able to shoot after you use this because the timing is wrong, unfortunately. Now, that being said, I mean, this would have been nice for like Inceptors, if you're running a lot of Inceptors. And I do think this detachment rewards Inceptors and Sanguinary Guard. And that's a really cool combo.
This plays, the reason I like this a lot is because it plays like 8th edition Blood Angels, where you had a more combined arms type of army, where you would have an amount of Inceptors and other shooting, plus you would have your combat hitters. And I think this detachment actually does a really nice job balancing the two of them. Yeah,
I think it's really cool. You get the Sanguinary Guard hitting really hard, because anytime your opponent kills anything, your Sanguinary Guard are like, all right, listen, mate, not having any of that. And then you have your 3-inch deep strikes to do secondaries. You have Angel Sacrifice to keep your units alive.
Reactive move jank.
You have reactive move jank. You have falling back and charging. You have advancing and charging. Advancing and charging, very strong. Again, we said it before. We'll say it again, very strong. So I think this detachment is missing a little bit of offensive oomph because it doesn't have the plus attacks and strength. It doesn't have lance. It buffs Sanguinary Guard if your opponent has already killed something, which real relevant units on your opponent's side probably will. But it lacks a little bit of oomph, but what it makes up for that with is utility. And I think it has a lot of that.
I think it's kind of like if you think about the Space Marine armies, right? The generic Codex, you have the Vanguard detachment, which is like a whole bag of tricks, some of which you don't even use all the time, but they're really powerful when the situation comes up. And then you have things like the Iron Storm, which is all about power before it got nerfed a couple times. And I think the first detachment here, replacing Sons of Sanguinius, what was it? Relentless Assault Force?
No, it was Liberator Assault Force. I don't know why they changed it. The Sons of Sanguinius name is much cooler.
Yeah, so that detachment is all about the power. It's all about the power moves and hitting as hard as possible, projecting the most threat. This one is all about tricky plays and is going to be a bit lean harder on the scoring side and adding some amount of shooting elements, which I think is totally cool. I think this is the second best detachment. I think the other one is the best, but it still has a lot of interesting tools here.
It's still quite good. I think if you want to go for a heavy melee army, like in the style of like the traditional Blood Angel lists over the last like 3-4 years, the kind that, I quite honestly speaking, pioneered like 3 years ago, you want to take Liberator Assault Force.
Yep, 100%.
If you want to run like a janky jump pack army that still can hit pretty decently hard, don't get me wrong, you want to take the Angels.
Yeah, like I said, if you look at the 8th edition list that I was playing with Blood Angels, you go back to the old like Twitch channel, you'll see that the archetype played like this. So I'll definitely get that on the table.
Absolutely.
At some point.
Yeah, Sanguinary Guard and Inceptors look quite good in that. And then jump pack Intercessors as well, to 3-inch away and to do Angel Sacrifice plays and to kill skirmish units and to do secondaries. I think that army seems really neat. Really neat.
Yeah.
But when you got to hit something hard, accept no substitutes.
Well,
Liberator Assault Force.
I'm excited to put these detachments on the table.
Absolutely.
But we have a whole bunch of data sheets here. So first up is Commander Dante himself. He's got his awesome new model already. He was him and Mephiston were the first two updated out of all the models.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So,
Mephiston significantly before Dante.
Yes. But they both look amazing. So I don't know if his weapons changed.
His weapon got +1 strength. Every other rule on him is the same as far as I can tell.
The Axe Mortalis?
Axe Mortalis was lethal hits. I believe it was 7-3-2. Now it's 8-3-2. I could be wrong on that. I don't think it makes a ton of difference. Yeah. I think he was 9-3-2 on the charge. He's pretty... I think he's a lot better now because getting +1 advance, +1 charge makes a big difference when you are advancing and charging.
Yeah, so not only does he give the unit that he's leading +1 to hit, he gives them +1 to advance and charge, which means that if you are in any of the detachments, which can advance and charge...
Which is all of them.
Except the Death Company. He won't be leading a Death Company unit for that, but
fair enough.
For the other purposes, like the other two detachments, he could totally be in Sanguinary Guard, right? Yep, Sanguinary Guard, Vanguard Vets, or Assault Intercessors. Probably Sanguinary Guard. As befits his status.
I mean, I'm not putting him in anything else. If I have access to Sanguinary Guard, I'm taking Sanguinary Guard.
But you're like, cool, advance and charge. Well, +1 to both of those. That's a big improvement.
Sizable.
It seems small, but it actually makes a big difference.
Yeah, +1 to charge is nice. It's actually a pretty good rule. But when you get to double dip by advancing +1, charging +1, it's super good.
And I think he's a lot more he's very valuable in the Angelic host because once again, you said there weren't many buffs to make your charge easier out of reserve when you redeploy. He is one of those things.
Yeah, they have to worry that you're taking an 8, and 8 with a reroll is a lot more likely than a 9. Still not something like I'd bank a charge on, but if you're desperate, you might.
Yeah, and then at the start of the fight phase, each enemy unit within 6 of the model must take a battle shock, -1 from the test when they do.
Very strong.
That's his death mask. All of a sudden, your opponent's like, well, no defensive strats, guess I'm dead.
Yep, no -1 damage strat, no interrupt, no fight first, no nothing. They don't get to do anything that they wanted to do, or they charge you, they don't get their offensive buffs, or they charge near you, they don't get their offensive buffs. It's a big deal, and because it's in the fight phase at -1, it can just screw with their plans hardcore. You don't bank on it, but then because I played with Dante, I played him with the new, like, with his 10th edition rules, and every so often my opponent would just charge in, fail their battle shock, and go, oh man, I wanted to fight on death next turn, and I can't, and I just went in and scooped his unit, because he couldn't interrupt, couldn't fight on death, couldn't armor contempt, couldn't do anything. It was huge. And it's still there. Also, +1 to hit to his unit is actually pretty big because Sanguinary Guard just hit on 3s. And so you really do want Oath on them if they're going to be hitting people in combat. But Dante's unit doesn't need Oath because it hits on 2s. And it has a beat stick murder character in there who's 10-3-2 on the charge with lethal hits.
Yeah.
So he's the complete package, and I want him in my list. We got the Sanguinor, who is literally unchanged. Absolutely.
He has a new model, though.
He has a new model, and it looks baller. Personally, I like the new Sanguinary Guard. I like the new Sanguinor models. That is just me. I'm going to be getting 18 Sanguinary Guard in the Sanguinor as soon as I physically can. But he has not changed a whit, which is fine because he is pretty good. We'll have to see where his points total settles because current points cost of 140, I actually found myself cutting him out of the list because he was just a little too many points.
Once you get to that 140 plus category, that's where you're the same points as like a real unit. And
a full unit.
Oftentimes a character isn't as valuable as that. But he is a very good character. He is one of the top tier like lone op characters.
Oh, for sure. He's very good. He's very good. So if I'll just go over what he does very quickly. He has 7 wounds with a 2-4, which did not befit his 25 millimeter model before, but will befit his swole, amazing current model. He deep strikes with fight first and lone operative. Lone operatives are really nice to have access to. And he has 8 attacks at strength 6, AP 3, damage 2, which with oath and charge bonuses and maybe lance is really efficient. Without it is not, and that's going to be important because once per battle, if he is in reserves, you can pick an enemy unit that made a charge move and you set this model on the battlefield within engage range of that enemy unit. And that means you can just be like, hello, show up in combat with them and fights first, which oftentimes will lead to peeling a character with precision. You spend a CP, peel a character, and then your opponent's unit falls apart, or just gutting the unit, or just using this as a way to drop in a way that your opponent can't answer, and then you just dive for their backfield or something with fallback and charge.
One cool thing here is that Angelic Host lets you go back into reserve with jump infantry, which I believe he is.
Yes, he is. He's jump pack.
So that means one of the things you would do to play around this, and we saw this in a couple games you used him, was your opponent would say, all right, you have to bring him down in your turn 3. Maybe they have bottom, and then he's just down, and they haven't really made any key charge. Now you can just be like, all right, cool, back in reserve.
Unfortunately, the reserve thing says you have to come in the next
You have to?
You have to.
Okay, never mind.
So unfortunately, you can pick him up.
I wanted
but
it.
he has
I
to
wanted
immediately
it.
go back down. I know.
I wanted it.
I know you did. And then he also rerolls battle shocks and leadership checks if you're
Just
within
cute.
6, which occasionally comes up. Often enough. I've played with him. Now, the thing I will say about Miraculous Savior, him coming down in combat with your opponent, is in that detachment, having the ability to angel sacrifice with the Sanguinor going inside an opponent's unit is brutal. If they are not minding their P's and Q's, the Sanguinor shows up and negates the entire combat of the unit. And now he throws himself under the bus, but like that can be the difference between a Sanguinary Guard squad getting absolutely wiped by 6/8 bound, or the Sanguinor showing up dying. Now the 6/8 bound only killed the Sanguinor and are getting hit by Sanguinary Guard with real hits and wounds, right? So you can do that, and suddenly they can't like charge you. Because if they charge you, the Sanguinor just shows up in the middle of their unit and says, fight me now. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to fight the Sanguinary Guard plus Dante, and now the Sanguinary Guard plus Dante are turning them, inside out.
Yeah, and I honestly think that if he comes down a little bit in points, he'll be probably an auto take in Angelic Host because his flexibility of being able to just being a nuisance of a lone op that can 3.1 away, get into a spot that's so annoying and just hold down that area is pretty damn good. And in addition, there's a couple units in the game right now that are led by a character that gives the unit fight first that can be very annoying for the Blood Angels to deal with. If he comes down, he's like, I'm fight first. I'm going to activate first, snipe out this Judiciar, and now, cool.
Yeah, they charge like scouts
now I can
or
just
something.
finish this off, yeah.
The Sanguinor drops in so that he's only getting hit back by 1 model, which is very easy to do because you get to pick exactly where they go, and you don't have to be in base contact. You can be 1 inch away, which means they only get to fight with 1 dude. And you, as you said, snipe out the fight first character. You drop in against Death Guard and you snipe out the the dude that gives fight first, and then all of a sudden you just get to charge the unit and you wreck them, and then they're having a bad day. And like, you won't use Angel Sacrifice on him against like nonsense, but when your opponent can't commit a 6-man Exalted 8 bound into your 6 Sanguinary Guard plus Dante because the Sanguinor will show up, sacrifice himself to turn that combat your way, damn, that's pretty nasty.
It is. Now, that's not the only awesome lone off that
No.
Blood Angels now have.
No, when you get to the 140 plus category, you start getting compared to lone ops like Mephiston.
So Mephiston has changed pretty significantly overall, and this is my personal favorite character in the Blood Angels lore. So what has he got here? Well, he's T5, 2-up save, he's 6 wounds, he's got his 5-up invuln, but he now has Feel No Pain 4+,
Yeah.
which makes him a heck of a lot tankier, and he no longer is joining units, he's a lone operative, with fights first. So now you could have 2 different lone op fight first units on different parts of the board. We see how strong those are in general. His Fury of the Ancients Witchfire power is sustained 1, or it's going to be sustained 3 if you do the hazardous version, and that is going to come in at 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, either at strength 4, AP1, D3 damage, or 5, AP2, D3 damage. It's an okay weapon. Sustained, you probably overcharge it, because honestly, with the 4 of Feel No Pain,
Yeah,
it's okay to take a couple wounds.
You're not taking the same amount of damage somebody else would if you rolled a 1.
Yeah, and then he has, of course, his Plasma Pistol, and then Vitaris is 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 9, AP3, D3 damage. So
yep. If you take this in Liberator, it is...
And it has lethal hits.
How many attacks is it base?
6.
6, so it goes to 7 at strength 11, AP3 damage 2, D3?
Yep.
Pretty nasty.
Now, that's not all. His datasheet, he has the Quickening, which allows him to be able to declare a charge in which he advanced, which he used to have this psychic power. It used to be a psychic power. So now it's his ability, which means that you don't have to use your 1 advance and charge strat on him. He just does it, and then you get another thing.
Yeah.
So you can have it in 2 separate areas of the board.
And he moves 7?
Yep, he moves 7.
So he can keep up with your jump pack guys because he moves 7 with an advance in charge, and most of your army is going to be moving 12 without an advance in charge. Very similar.
But wait, Jack.
But wait!
There's more!
There's more!
So he has Transfixing Gaze, which is an aura. While an enemy unit is within 6 of this model, each time that unit is selected to fall back, it must take a leadership test. If a test is failed, that unit must remain stationary. Oh my god. Do you remember Exalted 8-Bound, Jack?
I remember them every day.
Do you remember how if you stay remaining in combat with them, it's like critically bad?
Would there be units in Blood Angels where it's critically bad if you're not allowed to fall back from them?
There's a lot of them, honestly.
Yeah.
And this is where it comes up, where you kill the front layer, you consolidate into the second layer that doesn't hit too hard, and then all of a sudden your opponent has a bunch of trying to fall back, but they can't because they're going to fail one of them.
Yeah. So what this is this isn't your primary game plan. Because I played...
Yeah, you don't make it the only thing.
I played a lot with this kind of rule because Exalted 8-Bound have the same aura. What this is you take your turn like normal, but you throw your opponent at 50-50 to lose the game on the spot. And if they pass it, then guess what? You get to keep on playing. And if they fail it, they get to kick rocks.
They get wrecked.
They get to get wrecked. And that's great. If you can force that on them multiple turns in a row, the odds that they just lose the game go up and up and up. And that's really, really solid to even just have a chance. Because oftentimes what's going to happen is you're going to kill something with Mephiston, consolidate onto an objective, kill something with Sanguinary Guard, consolidate into an enemy, and just go, hey, if you want to keep playing the game, I need you to just make me a 7 on 2 dice. And if they do it, you keep playing the game. And if they don't, the game ends immediately. And it's real strong. Something to keep in mind. It says it's a leadership check, right?
It's a leadership test.
Well, guess what? Guess what? They're really, because again, I've played this with Exalted 8-Bound. I know this one in detail. There are limited ways to get around leadership checks. Very limited ways. For example, Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Sororitas, they can't miracle die a leadership check. Only a battle shock check, which this isn't. It's a leadership check.
What about Eldar Fate Dice?
Eldar cannot Fate die it either. You can't, Tyranids don't get Synapse on it. They don't get to 3d6 it. They have to 2d6 it. It is a big deal. People just take the check. Everyone is fair everyone's equal in Mephiston's eyes. You don't get to cheese this.
And what you just mentioned was that a lot of the abilities that modify stuff are related to battle shock tests. Not as many affect leadership tests. There are some.
There are some.
But not as many.
But not nearly as many. One of the best ones, weirdly enough, is the Sanguinoir, who's in your army.
The thing about this is that its power is partially linked to the Quickening, is that Mephiston can get into places. Previously, he was relatively slow and was harder to position in places. He can get into those nooks and crannies where he's engaging multiple things or near things that are getting engaged.
He's within 6 inches of you and you fail the fallback check, you're getting annihilated. And if you want to dive through and you want to take out Mephiston, well, you better dive past the unit that's locked in combat and then try and kill a guy who has a 5-up invuln, 2-up armor save, access to armor of contempt, to 4-up feel no pain, and fights first. Like, good luck with that. Really, truly, you're going to need it. And Mephiston is crazy. The glow up that man has received is truly something to be,
so
something
good.
to behold.
I love to see it. That model's amazing.
I think those are amazing rules. I think they're awesome. We have to see what they points cost him at. Because if they cost him at like 180 points, unfortunately, he's an awesome suite of rules, but you're not going to take him. If they cost him at 120, he's in every list and twice on Sunday. So we'll see where they put him in there. I think in the back of the book, he's 125 for whatever limited amount that is worth. And if he comes out at 125, I'm going to be asking my TO if Epic Heroes truly are restricted to 3 or to 1. Sorry, if I can't take 3. At 125, he's going to be absurd. At 180, he's too much. Somewhere in the middle is a happy medium where he is very strong and balanced, and we're going to see what that looks like.
Yep, I'm excited to play him.
Again, once in every list and twice on Sunday. Like, he's going in there. No fallback. Loan op with fights first. 4-up, feel no pain. Advances and charges. Hits like a truck.
He got every good role.
Sign me up.
This is the thing, is like Blood Angels are a much more well-rounded army with some of these updates because they have more tools than previously. They don't just hit hard. And
yeah, if Mephiston's 100 points, he's broken beyond compare.
Oh yeah,
but there is a points cost where those awesome rules find a home, and I think they're going to find it. Like 140, 150, I think would be fine. Something like that, 150.
We will see.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Astarath. So Astarath is very similar to where he was before. I think he got a bit of a glow up in terms of his melee prowess, because I think he was like 4 attacks before, something nonsensical like that, maybe 5. Either way, we're going to go over what he is now because he was not takeable before. So he has a fairly standard jump chaplain like defensive loadout. He's leadership 5. He has 5 wounds with a 2-up save. We got the Executioner's Axe, which is devastating wounds and precision with 6 attacks at strength 7, AP 3, damage 2. On the charge and Liberator Assault Force, could be 7 attacks at 9, 3, 2. Good profile. Pretty solid. AP 3 is really, really nice. And devastating wounds. He can only be attached to Death Company Marines with jump packs, which makes sense. Now, his ability used to be once a game when you made a charge move, you got devastating wounds. And it was okay, not worth including. Now it's every time they make a charge move, they get devastating wounds. All right, that I'm here to listen to a lot more. Especially if maybe, they charge, get interrupted on in fight on death with reroll wounds, and that detachment, who knows?
In that detachment, he's quite good.
He is quite solid. While this model is leading a unit, every time a model in that unit is destroyed by a melee attack, if the model has not fought this phase on a 4-up, they fight on death. Which is quite solid. If they get interrupted on, they get to reroll wounds, and they get dev wounds on the charge, and they hit pretty dang hard because they reroll hits. And they will also give him reroll hits, which is nice.
Yeah,
I think he's quite solid. We'll have to see what his points cost is at, but he went from being useless to being useful.
You can think about him now, yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Lamarty's has, as far as I can tell, not changed a hair. He has not gone up from 4 wounds for some reason, but he is very good. He was the best Blood Angels character by a significant margin before. He was the reason you didn't take, Flesh Terrors and take Gabriel Seth, who does not actually appear in this book.
So Brother Corbulo, Tycho, and Seth are gone.
Sad. Seth had a cool model, but it was a bit old. Anyway, Lamarty's is exactly the same as he was before. He subtracts 1 from the damage characteristic against his attached unit, which is a massive defensive buff. Makes the unit obnoxious to get through with cover and armor of contempt and all that. And melee weapons equipped by models in his unit have lethal hits, which is nice because lethal and lance have been decoupled largely. So I really like Lamarty's. I liked him in the past. I still like him now.
Great.
He has not changed. Death Company have changed a little bit, but if they go down in price, then I still see Lamarty's plus a 10-man being a thing. For sure. Blood Angel's Captain, I'm going to save you a little bit of time.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is a captain with an Inferno pistol. Or a heavy bolt pistol, your choice.
He's still what a captain does, and he's one of the main caddies for the generic enhancements, because we just went through some amazing named characters. They can't take any of these enhancements, and at least Angelic Host and the Liberator
Assault Force.
Assault Force. It's such a weird name. That doesn't fit.
Sons of Sanguinius was so much better, man. I'm just going to keep calling it that, to be honest with you.
Me too. So he is a great caddy for some of those enhancements, the Fight First one or the Gleaming Pinions.
Yep. Well, he can't take it because he doesn't have a jump pack.
Oh, he can't take a jump pack.
You're thinking of the jump pack captain.
Yep.
The jump pack captain, he does not get Finest Hour, unfortunately. What he gets instead is +1 strength to his attached unit on the charge, which is fine. You probably are only taking him if you have an enhancement you want, such as Gleaming Pinions or Speed of the Primarch.
Yes.
Those are the ones you want, and you will take a jump captain for those. This guy's pretty good with sustained hits 3 because he gets Finest Hour, which can ratchet his number of attacks way up and really give you that compounding effect of more attacks triggering, more sustains triggering, more reroll wounds triggering, more of everything. So he's pretty good at that. Otherwise, he's a little bit kind of whatever. It's a captain, right? We all know what a captain does.
The stratagem cost, that can be cool.
It's nice. It's good on a jump captain too, who does the same thing. I like that. Death Company captain has different rules. Same weapon profiles, same everything. Gains a 6-up, feel no pain. Has the standard Black Rage rule, which I'll read now. It's the same as it was before, which is you only reroll attacks in melee. You reroll hit rolls in melee only. Used to be all the time, but only in melee. That's fine. You mostly lost your Inferno pistols. And while the unit is not within 12 inches of one or more chaplain models, it cannot be selected to fall back, and its OC is 0. This is a sizable nerf to the unit. Not being able to fall back sounds amazing. Like sounds like, sorry, not amazing, but like this sounds like an amazing trade-off, right? You get real hits, you can't fall back, whatever. You're a melee unit, you never want to fall back. Well, let me spin a story for you. I played the Blood Angel Mirror, and in that I charged 5 Death Company, or 5, I think it was 5 Jump Pack Intercessors into a couple of Death Company after throwing a grenade and shooting them. I charged in and I killed all but 1 Death Company model, who proceeded to kill one of my guys. There was a Vindicator 6 inches away. But unfortunately, this Death Company model was not within 12 inches of a chaplain because I had killed the chaplains. And so this one Death Company model could not fall back, and the Vindicator just had to stare. Just had to watch and stare as the Death Company got murdered in his fight phase. And then I got to just have a unit and an objective and do what I wanted with the unit after that. So it is a sizable downside to not be able to fall back, even in a melee army. That means what you want to do is you want to have chaplains. OC 0, also not great. You want to make sure that you have OC so you can do secondaries, so you can hold objectives and your opponent doesn't just get to ignore you and turn your objectives off underneath your own units. Make sure you got your chaplains. In exchange for all that, you get reroll hits, which is an amazing rule, and it means that Blood Angels are actually fairly oath, not reliant on oath, which is great, because if you have 17 units and every single one of them requires oath to be good, your army's bad. But if you have 17 units,
it's called Chukari, Jack.
It's called
too soon.
Oofta. If you have 17 units and half of them don't need oath to be good and the other half do, you're probably fine. And that's where you want to be. So the Death Company captain has that rule, which is the same for all Death Company units, period. What he does is he gives his unit scout unless they're in a transport. So if they're on the board, they just scout 6 inches, which is not bad. It's fine.
It's fine.
And then him and the Jump Pack Death Company captain, I keep thinking it's chaplain, the Jump Pack Death Company captain, they both have Death Visions of Sanguinius, where when they die, they lash out one last time. And they roll a die when they are destroyed in melee, and they add 2 if the attacking unit contains your enemy Warlord. On a 2 or a 3, your opponent takes D3 mortals. On a 4 to a 5, they take 3. On a 6, they take D3 plus 3. So that becomes, on a 1, they take D3. On a 2 to a 3, they take 3 mortal wounds, and on a 4+, they take D3 plus 3. That's pretty nasty if this dude just charges Magnus. Does a little bit of damage on the way in, does a lot of damage on the way out. And other than that, he's just a captain, probably not worth taking just for Scout 6 in a melee profile, but it's pretty neat. Especially not really worth it when you could just take the chaplain that turns on your strats and turns on your OC and ability to fall back and gives the unit +1 to wound, all of which are probably more viable. The captain with Jump Pack has all of the same rules, except instead of Scout, he gives his unit sustained hits 1, which at least is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I like that. And if you're playing the Death Company detachment, you'll probably run a couple of these.
Yeah.
All right, so then we have the brand new Sanguinary Priest. So unfortunately, he doesn't have a jump pack
No.
like the previous one.
Sad.
So he is going to be able to join Assault Intercessors, Desolation Squad, Devastator Squads, Hellblaster Squads, Infernus Squad, Intercessors, Tactical Squads, or Stern Guard. And then you can attach him to a squad even if a Captain, Chapter Master, or Lieutenant has already been attached.
I could see making a unit of Assault Intercessors with him and a captain, maybe.
Potentially. So he gives the unit the 5 of Phenopain ability, and then while he's leading a unit, improve their AP of melee weapons by 1. So he does, that's exactly what
He has not changed a hair.
So he just doesn't join
Yeah.
Vanguard vets anymore, which was the main combo you would see.
Not have jump pack. Can I cover my favorite unit in 40K?
Yes, you 100% can.
Okay, my favorite unit.
So I think the Sank Priest is kind of niche now.
He's kind of niche. He can join 17 units, one of which is Assault Intercessors. The rest you will not have him join. That's just the way of the world.
I don't need my Devastators with the Sank Priest, frankly.
Yeah. Assault Intercessors become interesting, but like not really with a Sanguinary Priest. There's really Vanguard veterans.
Yeah.
If you could join him to something that had an invuln, if you could join him to Blade Guard, it would become pretty gross. But
I would.
You would. They would become ridiculous if you could do that. I get why they didn't, but like joining him to a tactical squad is a waste of like ink, right? You're never gonna do that. Who cares? Stern Guard, like, come on. So I think I really think that you should have, put him either in jump pack or given him some like a unit that's real.
How hard do the company champions hit?
Can he join those? He cannot.
He cannot join company champs.
No, they hit okay.
Yeah.
They would like having him because then they'd be really durable.
Because I know they were relatively durable for a Space Marine infantry body.
He cannot join those. No.
Yeah.
If he could, him, a captain, and a unit would actually be pretty solid.
And it's not like he can join the Gravis units where you would think about it as well.
No, it's just Assault Intercessors. And 10 Assault Intercessors with a Sanguinary Priest with Advanced in Charge and maybe a captain is a solid unit. But is it as solid as some of the other ones? Probably not. I thought about taking it. It's not horrible.
Yeah.
You can do that if you want to do it, basically. All right. My favorite unit ever in the entire time I've been playing, 12 years I've been playing 40K, maybe even 13 at this point. My favorite unit of all time, Sanguinary Guard. These guys were garbage at the start of the edition. 43 points a model, 2 wounds. They hit okay. They weren't that good. They were pretty bad. Sanguinary Guard have gotten a substantial facelift. Now, I like the new models. We haven't actually seen them on the table yet. We've just seen pictures of them. I like how they look. Some people don't. We'll see. I'll see how I feel after I build them. But I quite like the new models, and I quite like the new datasheet. This is a datasheet that was built for me. For me personally, I know whoever wrote this was thinking, Jack will like this one. And then they just sprinkled a bunch of things in as a little present to me. Just like, here you go. So they come in 3 to 6 instead of 5 to 10. And
which is nice.
I'm super down with this. 5 was too few. 10 was wildly too many. And I didn't want to take either of those numbers. 6 is the perfect number. I'm happy to take 6. I didn't really want to take 5. I definitely didn't want to take 10. So 6 is amazing. You can also take 3 if you just want a hitter squad.
I don't hate that in Angelic Host.
Don't hate that in Angelic Host. So their profile has gotten a substantial facelift. They move 12 still. They're still toughness 4, but they have a 2-up, 4-up save, 4-up invuln, instead of just a 2-up, which means high AP weapons, especially in combat, can get bent. Then, and the 2-up save in cover still bounces most mid-strength weapons with Armor of Contempt, most mid-AP weapons. So there's not really that much that's like super great to shoot them with, right? Because like you shoot them with a Forge Fiend that's damage 3, spoiler alert, and that'll hurt really bad, but you can Armor of Contempt and cover to get a 3-up. Yep. And you can have a 5-up Feel No Pain against the Dev Wounds. So it's kind of hard to kill them. So 2-up save is really, really nice. The 4-up invuln is really great if you get hit by like multi-meltas and stuff like that. It doesn't just auto-scoop you. So it's going to be tough to put these guys away. And then, they did it. They did it finally. They did it. 3 wound models, Richard. 3 wound models. I've been waiting for this one for a while. So 2 wound Sanguinary Guard, I played with them, okay? And when I played with them, what I found was the 2-up armor save was neat, but you'd still fail, like even with Armor Contempt and cover, you'd still fail like 3 saves. And that just gutted a unit because that's just 3 dudes dead. And now if you fail that, you just lose like a guy.
Yeah, guy and a wounded guy.
Guy and a wounded guy.
It's
Sick.
totally fine.
You haven't lost most of your unit to that, right? They throw 1 grenade and you lose a sanguinary guard instead of 2. And then they charge you and throw 1 power fist into you and you're dead. Now it's super not the case. So 3 wound models is a massive increase on staying power. I can promise you that. You know what the difference between Sword Brethren and Tactical Marines are? 1 wound. And yet Sword Brethren are insanely harder to kill than Tactical Marines. Against most weapons, they are twice as hard to kill. Because most ways you deal with Space Marines are damage 2. A lot of melee is damage 2. And if you're damage 2 going into 3 wounds, it is twice as hard to kill you as it is to kill 2 wound models, because it takes 2 failed saves to kill for every 1. So this unit is going to be a lot more resilient against
100%.
mid-strength attacks that try to kill Marines. And I love it. They're OC1. You can take a banner to go to OC2. So they've actually got good OC on objectives. They control objectives really well.
Or if they're battle shocked, they can still be OC1.
If they're battle shocked, they're still OC1. They still
you
control
mod
that objective.
0 first, then you add.
Yes, you do. And they have their same rules from before, but a little bit different. So it used to be every time a melee attack targeted you, -1 to hit. And every time a melee attack targeted you while you were being led by your warlord, you were -1 to wound. And that was a decent defensive ability. What it meant was you couldn't take more than 1 unit and have your abilities work.
Yep.
Now it is you are -1 to hit in melee and you are -1 to wound in melee as long as you are joined by a character, any character. So this means you can have multiple Sanguinary Guard units that are actually using all of their abilities, which is super cool. And they are stunningly durable in combat, which is great. They're not supremely durable in combat. We're not talking Deathwing Knights over here. If you do put real resources to killing them and they don't have a fights first and they don't have an angel sacrifice and they don't have whatever, you will kill them. And that means there's good counterplay, but they are going to be annoyingly tough to kill.
Yes.
And that means
I love it.
Oh, I love it so much. If you jump your opponent with a couple of units of Sangard, they're going to be hard pressed to fight their way out of it without dying. And I like that playstyle personally. I like having units that are durable enough to give my opponent problems. Units that can tank my opponent's entire army without dying are really nice, and I like them, but they're a lot rarer, and they usually suffer in somewhere else, either price or offense or whatever.
Speed.
Right? This is a unit that did not compromise speed or damage. We'll get to that in a second. And it has enough durability to give people fits, but not enough to take real units to the chin and live. And I think that's totally fine. So this in multiples is going to be really annoying for your opponent to get through, but it is possible to get through if they target prioritize well enough. All right, let's get to melee weapons. They used to be 4 attacks at 5/2/2, which was a very mediocre stat line. It was a blade guard. Cool. Now there's a blade and a spear, and the spear is just dramatically worse. I looked at this and I realized it's actually the same strength. I thought the spear was +1 strength. It isn't. The Encarmine Blade is what you're going to take. The Encarmine Blade is 4 attacks at strength 6, AP 3, damage 2. Super good melee weapon. +1 strength and AP is a hell of a buff to combat. This is going to hit very hard. In Liberator Assault Force, it's going to be 5 attacks at 8/3/2, which is, wow, that's a hell of a profile. You don't have a Power Fist in there anymore, but you're AP 3, and that, I promise you, is good enough. So this unit is going to hit very, very hard because they have AP 3, which is a huge luxury in melee. Most melee units top out at AP 2.
Yep.
And being able to get to AP 3 consistently and reliably is going to be a big deal. So 4 attacks at 6/3/2 is the Encarmine Blade. That is what you take. Okay, that's the one you take. The other one is the Encarmine Spear. And this is 1 fewer attack, so 3 attacks, and 1 less point of AP, AP2. Those are both massive breakpoints. In exchange, you get Lance natively instead of having to spend a CP for it. Nope, don't take the spear.
Well, even in Angelic Host, you'll try and get the reroll hits and wounds, and you don't need, it's just better to have the other weapon.
Mm-hmm. It is even if you could get even if you can't get Lance a different way, it is better to have the swords over the spears. And if you can get Lance a different way, it is comically better. Now, in terms of things that they lost, it is one thing, which is they lost, 2 things technically. They lost a Power Fist, whatever. I think the sword is better at AP 3. And they lost everybody having access to Inferno pistols. They are now 1 Inferno pistol in the squad, and that's it. basically the sergeant, right? You'll take it. It won't do anything at all. Occasionally, it'll plug a dude out of a world leader
you're not
unit or
relying
something.
on it.
You're not relying on it. Angel's bolt guns are very not great. It's just a bolt gun at 12-inch range with 2 shots and pistol. But that being said, you're not taking this unit for its shooting. Yes, in 9th edition, it had deceptively good shooting, but you're not doing that anymore. Now you're taking it as a brick you hit your opponent in the face with that moves very fast, hits very hard, and will give your opponent headaches to remove. This is, once again, my favorite unit in 40k. Period. Straight up.
It's going to be a great unit for Blood Angels. I'm excited to see it on the table.
Yep.
Next up, we have the Death Company Marines with bolt rifles. So they have a variety of war gear options here. They can change, one bolt rifle can become a hand flamer or an inferno pistol, a plasma pistol, a chainsword, and then you can swap for every 5 models. You can have an eviscerator, one guy can have a grenade launcher, and then you get one close combat weapon, whether Power Fist, a Thunder Hammer, etc. They have the 6 of Pain, as always. They have the Black Rage, which we had talked about.
Do they only real hits in melee still? Like this, I think, is the same, right?
Yes, when you make a melee attack.
Not that great.
And then Visions of Heresy. Once per turn, you can target the unit with Fire Overwatch or the Heroic Intervention stratagem for 0 CP. While resolving that strat, each time a model in the unit makes a ranged attack, you can reroll the hit. So for your
Okay, all right, on Overwatch.
Which is okay. And then you can reroll the charge if you were doing the Heroic Intervention. So it's nice. I don't end up thinking that this unit is completely amazing because, once again, bolt rifles aren't going to really inspire you. You can get, is it one hand? Yeah, one hand flamer in here.
Whee!
It's a strength 3 flamer.
Nothing like having a unit who shoots have their rule be reroll hits in melee.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Or reroll hits on Overwatch. It's like, okay, we're still barely chipping away at a couple garbage units. I don't think it's great. Then you have regular Death Company Marines. So these guys get the sustained 1 each time they make an attack. And if they're below starting strength, that's what they get. Or if they're below half strength, they get the sustained 2. So this is where you can stack a bunch of buffs on a wounded Death Company unit. And all of a sudden,
fight on death.
Or on the fight on death. Yep, absolutely. And they have the same kind of weapon upgrade options here. 5 to 10 models.
So what are their war gear options? Because I know the new Death Company and Jump Pack have a very wonky set of war gear
One
options.
heavy pistol can become a hand flamer, inferno pistol, or plasma pistol. 1 in every 5 models can have an eviscerator, and then 1 model can switch its chainsword for a power fist, power weapon, or thunder hammer. Very similar to the bolt guys.
I am pretty confident that instead of taking these dudes, you're going to take assault intercessors.
Yes.
Yes.
I would assume so. Unfortunately, their rule is not like amazing, and you have to really run a chaplain to get the full use out of these, so that adds to the cost significantly. Then Death Company Marines with jump packs.
These guys I quite like.
Yep, so these guys get, for every 5 models in the unit, 1 heavy pistol can become a plasma pistol, whatever. 1 model can get the eviscerator, 1 model can get a power fist or power weapon, and then for every 5 models, you can swap out a heavy bolt pistol and chainsword for some sort of combo of weapons, like get a second power fist, second power weapon, whatever it is.
So if you are taking a 5-man, you get 1 eviscerator and 2 power fists.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking a 10-man, you get 2 eviscerators and 3 power fists. And eviscerators are probably a little bit better than power fists. They're 1 less strength, and they hit on 4, or they have 1 less attack or something, but they're sustained hits.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they hit on 4s. The same number of attacks, but they hit on 4s with sustained, and are strength 7, as opposed to hitting on 3s without sustained at strength 8. And again, on the charge, that'll go up to strength 9 or 10 if you're running Liberator Assault Force. And I think they're quite good.
Yeah. The Eviscerator hits on 4s. The others.
It does. It hits on 4s, but it has sustained hits, which means statistically you will get 100% of your attacks as hits, as opposed to Power Fist, which will get, 87% or whatever, 83% of their attacks will be hits. Something like that.
Yep. Their rule is Savage Fury, where they reroll charges, and they have the same Black Rage rule.
Yep.
And they gain Deep Strike, of course.
I think it's solid. Points depending. Obviously, they don't all have Inferno Pistols and Power Fists, so they will not nuke people out of existence.
It's a very different unit. It is much more in the lines of the Jump Pack Intercessors, where it's more of a skirmish unit in my mind.
And I'll be honest, if the Liberator Assault Force just gets Jump Pack Intercessor Squad 4 through 6, that's good enough. That's super good enough, especially ones that don't require
more trade resources.
Yep, absolutely.
So you just kind of have to change your opinion on these, where it's no longer, this is my one god tier unit. You actually are going to use more Sanguinary Guard and character models for that, and they're going to be more like Jump Pack Intercessors, where you just can trade them as needed to kill things.
Now, to be clear, Jump Pack Intercessors and these dudes in Sons of Sanguinius will still hit hard enough to kill real units. Because in Liberator Assault Force, it'll still hit hard enough with 12 attacks at either 9/2/2 or 10/2/2 that real hits on a 5-man. You're still going to nuke a lot of things out of existence. I think they need to go down in price, but they're still going to be quite good. And you, with Lance or whatever, are still going to piece up, a lot of vehicles or units just with that.
Yeah. There's 2 more data sheets here, the Death Company Dreadnought and the Ball Predator. I'll finish those off, and then you can kind of give your overall perspective. So Death Company Dreadnought is now in the Redemptor chassis instead of baby chassis.
Yeah, it's the Brutalis, I believe. It's the Brutalis kit.
Yep, Brutalis kit. So he has a variety of options here. His twin heavy bolter can be replaced by a twin multi-melta, and then his Blood Fist and Blood Fist bolt rifle can be replaced by Blood Talons. So what the heck does all that mean? Well, his melee is, if he goes for the Blood Fist, they're twin linked, 6 attacks, hits on 3s, strain 12, AP2 flat 3. If he goes for the Talons, there's a strike or a sweep profile. Both are also twin linked. The strike is 6 attacks, hitting on 3, strain 12, AP2, 3 damage. Same exact thing as the Blood Fist. But you get a sweep profile in addition that you could use instead of the strike, which is 10 attacks at hitting on 3s, strain 7, AP2, 1 damage.
It sounds like the Talons are a lot better than the Fists.
It kind of makes no sense that the Fists are the same exact profile as the strike Blood Talons, but you just have the option to have sweep.
Yep, the Fists get bolt rifles, which...
Ooh.
Whee! So you take the Talons.
And then, in addition to that, you have a variety. You have the Icarus Iron Hail Stubber and blah, blah, blah. But you're probably going to take the Twin Multi-Melta because this thing needs to get up close anyway.
Yes.
It has a 6-up Phenopane.
That's very handy on a tough vehicle.
Yep, it's a 2-up save, 12 wounds, OC4 on this guy, T10. And then his rule, so he has Black Rage just like the other Death Company units, so you can get those reroll to hit in melee. Then Driven by Fury. So in your opponent's shooting phase, each time an enemy unit has shot, if he was hit by one or more of those attacks, he can make a Driven by Fury move. To do so, you roll a d6 and add 2 to the result, just all the time, and he moves that many inches, but must finish as close as possible to the closest enemy unit, excluding aircraft. A model can't make this move while it's battle shocked, or if it's in engaged range, and it can only make one of these moves per phase.
So they added enough caveats that this is not broken, but it is quite good. If it could make it more than once per phase, this thing would be bananas. Because you shoot it, it moves towards you like 7 inches, and then you shoot it again, it moves towards you again another 7 inches. And because it's a Driven by Fury move and not a normal move, it can end in combat with you.
And it's not triggering certain things.
Exactly. But because it can end in combat with you, you can just get shut down by it. Now, it doesn't say it can end in combat, but because it's not a normal fallback or advanced move.
It's just a Driven by Fury.
It's a Driven by Fury move, you can. And so you end in combat with your opponent. Now they have to stop shooting at you with blast weapons. They shoot at you with -1 to, hit, and you're in combat, and then you punch them up on their turn. Pretty strong.
My opinion of this is that I'd like to see a relatively cheap Death Company Dreadnought because it's just been so damn long since we've seen these guys on the table, and they are iconic in the lore. I'd love to see these guys on the table. I hope they're not priced too... I think it should be a bit cheaper than where the Brutalis is currently, personally.
The Brutalis has the impact mortals, but doesn't have real hits. Be interested to see where this ends up.
I think it should be a little more aggressively costed just so we get to see it on the table.
I'd like that.
Personally.
I'd like to see some Death Company Dreads.
And then finally, the Ball Predator. It does stay, and it is same normal profile, and I believe nothing has changed about it except that its rules, Overcharge Engines, is you can reroll advance rolls made for the model instead of you being able to shoot the top flamer if you advanced.
So what it used to be...
Or close as eligible is something crazy.
It used to be you could... Your guns, when you advanced, you rerolled your advances, which it still has. So you rerolled your advances, and when you advanced, your guns gained assault, all of them, but could only target infantry.
Yes.
That is now gone, and its top gun, I believe, has assault natively.
It does have assault natively.
It's a solid upgrade.
This is the Flamestorm cannon.
Yes. Not the side guns. The side guns, I don't believe, have assault, but you can
No, they
correct me.
do.
They do. Everything is assault.
Heavy Flamer and Heavy Bolter.
Okay. Well, hell yeah. hell yeah, brother. This thing just
Also,
boogies.
the twin assault cannon if you really wanted it.
Yeah, which you don't. But, you know, if you did.
The only thing that doesn't is the Stormbolter and Hunter Killer, which is totally fine.
Before it was a little wonky. You'd advance and try and target spawn, and oops, they're not infantry, so you can't actually shoot them.
This is a nice little upgrade.
Yeah, it's a nice little upgrade. We'll see how they price them, because at 125, they're priced to move, and you see them every so often. But if they go up at all, you just won't.
And that, my friends, is the Blood Angels Codex. I think overall, if you're very attached to the large Death Company squad with all the hammers or Inferno pistols, yeah, you're going to be a little bit sad here. But the things that you get instead, I would have made that trade 100% of the time. Advance and charge, Jack. Advance and charge where I needed.
That is the good stuff.
A lot of really good things in this book. Give me your overall thoughts here.
I'm extremely excited. I believe that I read this yesterday for the first time. And I believe I was just sending you messages of just going.
It was just like every 5 minutes. It was like Jack. It was like a Jack. Just oh my god,
I'm losing my mind over this. Oh my god, they brought back Sanguinary Guard.
This is my favorite thing ever. Times 15.
I think I literally sent a message to Quentin that said, "This is like if they just wrote a book directly to me, like just for me." I'm super excited. I'm really looking forward to my units going faster. Not just because going 12 and charging is quick. It is, especially in current 40K. Current 40K units are closer together, objectives are closer together, terrain is closer together. So moving 12 and charging, it's fine. I'm really looking forward to being not just quick, but actively very fast with advances and charges and bonuses to all of that. In addition, I'm really looking forward to the suite of characters that we have. Lamarty's is still really good. Ashtorath got improved significantly. Mephiston is
Are you insistent
monster.
on him?
I'm insistent on Mephiston for sure. Dante now has a real home that he wants to go into. I'm a big fan of all these characters. The Sanguinor is just as good as he was before. We'll see where his points land. I'm a big fan of all of that. The detachment actually feels like a full and fully realized detachment. I'm excited to see what the host of angels or whatever.
Angelic host.
Angelic host. I'm really excited to see what that comes out with. But I'm extremely down for the new Sons of Sanguinius. Real enhancements that don't just completely suck top to bottom, because they did. They're probably the worst suite of enhancements in the entire game. And now we have some really good ones in there. We still have the bonus to damage. That means we hit really goddamn hard. And we can advance and charge now. Is super amazing. The fight first, also great. So I am super down for those rules. The advance and charge, oh, it's so good. It is what Blood Angels have been looking for years. Years.
Yes.
And Sanguinary Guard are not just back, they are so back. Like I am going to try to get 18 of them the moment the model drops. My birthday is coming up. I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to buy myself 18 of these guys. I'm going to build them, and I'm going to paint them, and I will give them all little funny names and little hats, and I'm going to have them do tea parties with each other. Okay? I am so outrageously excited because they have sucked for over a year super hard, and they've been coming down in points and not getting better, and coming down in points and not getting better, and coming down in points and not getting better. And now they are just a really, really strong data sheet that will probably be priced like it, if I had to guess. The points in the back of the book are 50 points a model. That is a little steep. It's a little steep. They cannot be the current 31 points a model. That would be ridiculous. Can you imagine having them be 186 points for a unit of 6?
You really need 18.
And you would need 18. But I think something like 40 points a model is super reasonable, a very good place to put them. And if that is the case, if there's somewhere in that vicinity, 35 to 45 points, I'm taking 18. I do not care. I just don't care, Siegs. I'm taking 18.
I'm seeing that.
And
I'm probably taking a lot too in Angelic Host.
Great time. What I like about this book is it looks fun. My first read through, it looked broken. Second and third read throughs, I think it's just pretty good. I think it's pretty good. We will need to see points on all of this, and all that can change. Yep. If Sanguinary Guard are 20 points a model, the Codex is busted beyond belief. And if they're 100 points a model, it's unplayable. So there's a range in there where the units are reasonable and good. The rules seem good. They seem very fun. They seem very tactical and very flavorful. And I am excited to put this on the table.
It's honestly kind of interesting that this book contrasts to some other codexes where often when a codex releases, the index detachment, with all the excitement about the other ones, it's kind of meh. You kind of like walk past, so you're like, all right, this lost certain things that were really strong and got put in other detachments. Let's look at all those other ones. But eventually it comes back to being kind of one of the better options. Yeah. In this one, I think it is still clearly the best option. I think Angelic Host is really tactical and has a lot of interesting plays, but it'll take a bit longer to really perfect whatever style works best with it. And then I think the Death Company detachment, as cool as it is for fluff-wise, I think it's too niche, personally. I don't think the Death Company datasheets actually can carry this army at all. I think you need to have more than that. So I think the other two detachments are better, and I think the Index one, now called whatever, not Sons of Sanguinius, but it's Sons of Sanguinius.
Liberator Assault Force.
I think that one's going to be the strongest because it just means Blood Angels hitting you hard, getting super fast, and it's going to be really exciting to see this on the table.
I want to commend whoever wrote this book, whatever team wrote this book at Games Workshop. I want to say they did a really good job. And let's compare and contrast this to some other books that have come out. Specifically, another army that is near and dear to my heart. I have a couple. One of them, probably the largest one, is Blood Angels. But right after that is Custodes. I love Custodes. I painted up a Custodes army I'm very proud of, and I put some real work into it. And then the Codex came out, and it was garbage. It had everything cool about it excised surgically from the book, and it was replaced with nothing. It was bland, dull garbage. And I hated that book. Still kind of do. And it took all the cool things out of Custodes. This book, this Blood Angels book, is written by someone who understands why Blood Angel players want to play Blood Angels. And sure, it took some things out of the book. A lot of the older models got pruned. A lot of the combos that developed because of that got pruned, right? Death Company are no longer... War Gear options got pruned, right? You're not getting 5 Inferno Pistols and 5 Power Fists. And that was a pain in the ass to like put together anyway. So you don't have that. You don't have the Sanguinary Priest with Jump Pack. You don't have the 2 CP Fight on Death Strat. But you know what? For the Codex, when they took options away from me, and unlike in Custodes where every option they took away hurt, in this, the options they take away, I don't care.
They took stuff, but then they gave some really good stuff.
They gave some things that make me excited to play the army more than I'm disappointed about the things I lost. I actively don't care about the things I lost because the things I'm looking forward to playing with outweigh them so heavily, and the army looks fun. And it looks fun to play the way that I like to play Blood Angels. It looks fun to play in the way of the like triple Sanguinary Guard list that I built like 3.5 years ago to take to an RTT before I discovered it was actually pretty neat. So I just had a smile on my face all day yesterday after reading this book. And that is something I did not have after Custodes. It's not something I've had after some books that come out for my factions. And I want to say whoever wrote this book did a very good job.
Now, from my perspective, I had played Blood Angels back in 8th edition, so if you remember those streams, you'll remember me playing them against like Nick's Death Guard and all that stuff, and I really enjoyed the playstyle that existed back then, because Blood Angels could play a smashy, in-your-face, pure combat army, but they could also play a janky, weird, shoot mixed arms kind of army, and I really missed that in 9th edition, so I just was like, Jack, totally take my army, you know, all these models are yours, you can just use them at any of the events.
I've never seen you using them.
Yeah, and then now with the index was a similar thing, different but similar. This Codex makes me really excited to play Angelic Host specifically. Yep. I really want to come up with a good, interesting list for that, and I'm glad that we're excited about different detachments because I think we'll come up with some really unique ideas for both of them. So I'm excited to get that on the table and kind of bring that old play style back because I have all those models besides the new ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just excited. This is a great Codex.
It's a great
fun.
Codex.
Yes, there are things missing, but man, Mephiston, yes.
Mephiston.
Ready, baby, I'm in.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think, I've just had this book has made me happier for reading it, and I like that. And it's going to be fun, and I don't think it's going to be too much. Heck yeah.
I
think it's a very well balanced book, and I'm excited to put it on the table. And
Yeah, there's nothing I look in here. I'm like, wow, that's just broken. We're going to have day one FAQs, needs to be fixed. It looks like points are going to be able to smooth anything out.
any problems out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Advance and charge is a rule a lot of armies have access to, and it's just one that Blood Angels just didn't, and now they do.
They kept
and they're
not giving
fast
it to
and dynamic. Some units got toned down, but that's fine. Sanguinary Guard got juiced, but we'll find out where their points cost lies. Very excited. Very excited. Oh, what's that over there? Just gonna put that out there.
Officially been inducted into the Sanguinary Guard.
That's right. Oh, I put it on the correct shoulder to be Codex compliant.
Yeah.
Too. I got the after
Dante would be proud.
Yeah. I got that tattoo right after winning the ITC because of Blood Angels. Because
LVO
of
finals.
A triple Sanguinary Guard build that is probably my favorite 40k list I've ever played to this day. And the army is back.
Yeah. And you played against a bunch of other melee, and Blood Angels are like, no, we're the kings.
Absolutely not. If you knew how to make the melee sing, you could beat anyone in melee for sure. And I think that's going to be the case. I think Liberator Assault Force is going to be one of the best melee armies in the game, as Blood Angels should be.
As they should be. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you did, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, leave a comment below letting us know what you're excited about. Which models are you excited to put on the table? What are you happy about? Let us know. We'd love to read it. And finally, if you want to see the new Blood Angels in action, please do go over to the warroom.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial on there. You'll be able to see a brand new battle report involving these new Blood Angels. And there's going to be plenty more to come in the coming weeks of Blood Angels. It's going to be nonstop, so expect a lot of red.
Absolutely. A lot of red, a lot of gold.
You better be seeing red on this channel.
There will be. There will be.
So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Jack.
Thank you,
Hope
Mr.
you're all
Richard.
as excited about Blood Angels as we are, and we will see you all soon for plenty more content. So long for now.
Bye-bye.